Hello, my name is Genesis Lugo, and my video presentation is going to be on the Chinese religion of Daoism. I have a timeline here of Daoism. Now, as you can see, Confucianism is attached onto here, and that is because they both originate from one of the earliest Chinese religious views, which is called the Book of Changes. Now, the Book of Changes is believed to have been put together by the end of the second millennium before Christ existed. The Book of Changes is one of the earliest documented expressions of the Chinese mindset, and it describes a worldview where every single component of the cosmos belongs to an organic whole, meaning that all components are constantly interacting with one another. Now, unlike many other religious groups, the Book of Changes doesn't include any creation myth, meaning they don't have a story of origin for us, in a sense. Now, that absence of creation myth can possibly explain why there is that practice of honoring ancestors in China. The practice of worshiping ancestors has been an ancient practice within the Chinese way of living. Since they worship their ancestors who share human qualities, the thought of a creator may be difficult for many of them to envision. Instead, the Book of Changes believes in undifferentiated chaos, meaning it's two completely different energies that complement each other, which can be known as qi. Now, the first energy is known as yang, which literally stands for the sunny side of the mountain. And the second is yin, which literally stands for the shady side of the mountain. Now, within this kind of worldview, nothing exists outside of the cosmos. There is no holy other in early Chinese beliefs. In this ancient Chinese understanding, there is no Almighty God existing outside of creation. Likewise, there is no evil counterpart dedicated to undermining the plans of a benevolent creator. Now, due to these beliefs, it releases humanity from the guilt instead of following the tale of an evil one, meaning that instead of humans feeling guilt from a story of originating from sin, within Taoism, humans are released from that. We don't need to feel guilt from our predecessors or anything like that. There is no original sin. Story. Now back into this slideshow. Um, Due to these beliefs, it releases humanity from that guilt. Instead, harmony between the yin and the yang is what is preferable, while disharmony and imbalance between the two isn't. The same way the two halves of the yin and the yang are interlocked and penetrating, containing pieces of one another, the cosmos is in this constant flow of shift and change. Now, as the energies of the cosmos are constantly interacting with one another, the yin and the yang form solid matter when when they interlock and when they collide, and they become immaterial when they diffuse, meaning when they separate. Now, humans have a physical body, which is the physical manifestation of the yin and the yang, but we also have immaterial aspect divided into hun and po. Now, the hun reflects the yang, which they both represent being light, purity, and upward rising, while po reflects the yin, meaning it's being heavy, rigid, and downward sinking. The Hun and the Po are introduced into the physical body once the fetus is concepted, and together they make up the spiritual aspect of the individual, meaning together they make our soul. Now, as long as both energies stay within the body, the person stays alive, although there are exceptions, which it's when a person is asleep or in coma. However, at death, the hoon does leave the body permanently, and it does rise upward, while the post settles into the earth alongside the physical body. Now, both the Hoon and the Po eventually do end up dissipating and becoming different forms. And those forms at some point end up creating future beings. Now, after death, the Hoon and the Po do remain intact, and the soul does linger for a bit. Now, on very rare occasions, if the deceased spirit has accomplished a lot and they, let's say they are held with gratefulness within their community and they become a Shen, which is known as a benevolent power that protects and brings benefit to the people that are still living. Now, on the complete contrary, the spirit of someone who suffered a great injustice in their life, and if they die tragically, they become a G or Gu G. We'll say it like that. I'm not too good at pronouncing words, but it becomes a vengeful and a malevolent spirit who haunts and frightens the living with ill will. Now, motivated by both longing and fear of these spirits, the Chinese, from ancient to modern times, they still strive to cultivate good relations with both the Shen and Qi. Now, once again, so we can go into that a little more, the Shen represent good deities and gods. You know, they fulfill wishes of wealth and status. They bless the people of life. And that while the G, they represent spiteful ghouls, demons, and ogres. They find, let's say, they find joy in causing harm to humans. Now, during the Shang Dynasty, the king's power was legitimized through Shangdi, who was known as the supreme deity, who was the most powerful in the Shang spiritual world and an ancient ancestor of the Shang imperial house. Now, Shangdi was in control of the cosmos, but he was not the creator. Although Shangdi was a source of power to the kings, this power was known as Dai, meaning virtue. Around the end of the second millennium, a former minister staged a rebellion, which led the Zhao to overthrow the Shang. When the Zhao claimed, now, when the Zhao overthrew the Shang, they claimed that Shang Di justified the change, and he would be changing his name to Tian. Tian literally meaning the sky or force above. Tian was very different from his former being known as Shang Di because Tian wasn't swayed by bribery, blood ties, or sacrificial offerings. Instead, Tian wanted moral righteousness. Since Tian completely had this shift, he no longer approved of past traditions and moral unrighteousness. He, in order for him to bestow political authority and legitimacy, you had to be a righteous person. And this was a mandate given by Tian, and it was understood to be a conditional gift. And this gift was known as Ming or Tianming. Now, the Tianming could be revoked or given to another person or family at any time if its current holder was found unworthy to exercise it. And this withdrawal of power was known as Jiaming, which justifies revolution. To the Zhao, Tian's operation in nature and to the human world is known as its Tao, meaning the way or path. By following and obeying the Tao, both the natural and human world could operate smoothly and could reach optimal potential. This implementation of the Tao of Tian is the duty and obligation of the human ruler. Since chosen by the Zhao king, they call themselves the Tianzi, meaning the sons of Tian. They were entrusted with the power to rule over Tianexia, which is the entire world. Therefore, the king was also an important religious figure originating within the Book of Changes. Now, to fulfill the roles of king and priest, The Zhao leader had to observe sets of behavioral practices referred as the Li, meaning rituals. Li covered every aspect of the king's behavior and provided foundation for later Chinese rulers. Now, Taoism evolved from this ancient religious mindset, but instead of regarding Tian as the absolute ultimate, Taoists hold Tao to be the supreme. Now, Taoists have their very own unique understanding to Tao that serves as a point of departure for their religious experience. Now, as a really quick refresher, hopefully you guys can understand me and keep up with that. When the Zhao overthrew the Shang, their the Shang the Shang's creator and that deity that they were worshiping decided, well, was told by the Zhao that he changed his name to Tian, and he completely changed everything he liked. He didn't want sacrifices, so that was a big thing. Now, within Taoism, once again, they don't regard to Tian as the absolute ultimate. It holds Tao to be the supreme. Now, Luozi and Zhongganzi are two of the most prominent figures in Taoist thought. Luozi is known as Master Lao and was often seen as a mystical teacher and author of the Tao Te Ching, the scripture of the way and its potent manifestation. Zhao Ganzi was an obscure individual who was reported to be active in the late 4th century before Christ existed. He was the author of the second most influential Taoist text, the Zhaoganzi. Both texts are more of a representation of certain modes of thinking, and they contain different strands of thoughts rather than coherent logical teachings. Both the Tao Jing and Zhaozing contain descriptions of perfected human beings who possess powers of magic and immortality. Both texts suggest that through immense inner psychic journey and mystical conditioning of the human body, individuals can acquire powers of transformation and not be vulnerable to the decaying agents in nature. Now, Taoist teachings in the Tao Te Ching explain that the Tao is the formless source of all existence. Tao is described to be as the root of the universe existing before Tian and Di, which stands for nothing more than nature itself now. Tao is the mother of the world, giving rise to all things. The Tao Te Ching presents an explanation where Tao gives birth to the one being existence, which then brings forth the two, which is the yin and the yang. It gives rise to the three, which is Tian, Di, and humans, and the 10,000 things, which represents world of diversity. The Tao is also compared to a mysterious female and uncarved water and uncarved block, source of all things that can only maintain its pristine form when humans are not involved and are wise enough to leave it alone, meaning the ideal course of action for humans who were wise would be to absorb the wu, meaning the actions without intention, and Ziren, and to allow the Tao to maintain order, meaning that if we were to just look without doing anything and we allow the natural world to continue its Tao, it would stay in order. Now, all of these principles reflect the Taoist belief in perfection and completeness of the Tao. The Zhaozing is composed of 33 chapters that are divided into three sections, which is the inner, outer, and the miscellaneous. The first seven or inner chapters are believed to be authentic writings of the Zhaozo and the putative author. The Zhaozing is overall a different kind of text, while Tao Te Ching gives much emphasis to politics and the techniques of rulership. The Zhaozing is deliberately dismissive of all political involvement, and the Zhao Te Ching tells stories with a very witty and playful tone that's missing in the Tao Te Ching. However, in terms of basic worldview and assumptions, they both share a lot in common. Hence, their grouping together later by historians as representatives of the school of Tao, meaning that both of these literatures are represent the school of Tao. They're both very known by Taoists. The Zhaozing, in the Zhaozing, the Tao is both the source of all things and the immanent core that exists in all things, from humans to the most insignificant objects. It's therefore omnipresent, making all things equal. The Tao transcends all dualities that cannot be grasped through human rational. It can only be realized intuitively, intuitively through abandonment of all intellect. The mind must be free of all conventional distinctions and established views, which explains why they have that carefree wondering in the Zarazing. This is when the connection of fasting, the heart and mind, and sitting and forgetting become permanent both as practice and deliberate cognation in order to gain perfect intuitive understanding of the Tao. Both the Tao Te Ching and Zhangzi hint, in, hint at the physical prowess of Taoist adepts, including invulnerability, longevity, and immortality. Both contain texts that describe individuals who embody the Tao and achieve extraordinary abilities through spiritual and physical practices. For example, they suggest that those who cultivate the Tao can avoid harm from wild animals or weapons. The Zaozing even describes divine beings who live without food, ascend clouds, and possess eternal vitality. These texts suggest that potent, healthy, long living individuals embody the Tao, which is holy energy, and that physical longevity and holiness are linked. These techniques would later become important to future Taoists. In addition to the concepts set forth in the Tao Te Ching and Zhaozing, there's much more that contributed into the formulation of the Taoist tradition, the most significant being about immortality, alchemy, and Taoist deities. Long before the Tao Te Ching and Zhaozing texts, there were shamans who sought magical powers, physical potency, and immortality through artistries. They are equally foundational as Laozi and Zhaozing and Zhaozi, since they are a major feature in the Taoist movement. A key focus for Taoists is the notion of Xian, which is immortals, which dates back to the 4th century before Christ existed. The belief that humans with the right recipe or formula could teach exotic techniques and provide elixirs to those who had financial resources and devotion to secure their services. This idea is elaborated in Jie Hong's Bao Puzi in the 4th century, which explains the links within the human body to the cosmos, and it emphasizes the importance of maintaining balance. Now, central to this is the concept of yang sheng, which means nourishing life. It includes practices like meditation, breathing exercises, diet, and even sexual techniques to harmonize and connect with the Tao and achieve longevity. All these measures of nourishing life have been practices by the Taoists since the 2nd century and are grouped together under the name of Nei Dan, internal alchemical regimens, and external alchemy to refine the body and attain immortality. Now, these alchemical practices became a major part of Taoist teachings and tradition. In Taoism, the highest deity is known as Yushani Tianzun, whom is part of the Trinity known as the Three Purities. Below them is a vast celestial bureaucracy with deities of different ranks, many who were former humans promoted to divine status. In these are included nation figures, Lord Zhenwu of Mount Wudong, and local gods known as Stove God and Lord Guan, who are aimed at protecting businesses owners. Taoist deities inhabit the heavens, earth, underworld, and human body, where they protect internal organs and promote health. There are rituals Taoists perform to invoke these deities for protection, health, harmony, and immortality. The deification of Laozi was a key development in the rise of Taoism as an organized religion. By the second century, Laozi was seen as the human incarnation of the Tao and capable of intervening with human affairs and establishing techniques to save the world. This belief turned Taoism into a salvational faith. The deified Laozi assumed the, the one as Tasheng Laojun as messianic figure offering divine instruction of salvation. In 142 CE, Zhang Ling, later known as Tian Shi, claimed to receive teachings from Laozi on how to save the world. This movement, called Orthodox Unity, grew into a large-scale religious movement, provided material aid and healing. This led to a theocratic organization with its own system of beliefs and practices known as the Yellow Turbans, or Great Peace, that aimed to overthrow the government and create a new age. Now, during the period of disunion in the 3rd and 6th centuries, Taoism underwent significant developments. The celestial masters migrated south after the fall of the Han Dynasty, establishing a base on Mount Longhu. Now, this new philosophical interpretations of the Daoism and Zhaozing emerged, focusing less on traditional transformations. Jehong emphasized on physical immortality through alchemy in response to new In response to Buddhism, new Taoist texts like the Shaojing and Ling Bao appeared, emphasizing spiritual experiences and rituals for salvation. Taoism also began to anticipate a huge transformation with the savior figure to protect the devout. This period led to a creation of the Daoism. Now, from the 7th and 14th centuries, Taoism enjoyed imperial patronage and influenced art and culture. The Quanzhen sect, founded by Wang Zi, became influential, combining elements of Confucianism and Buddhism, which are still active today alongside the celestial masters. Now, during the late imperial period of the 14th and 19th centuries, Taoism was marginalized by the growth of Neo-Confucianism, which at the time viewed organized Taoism as corrupt. This disdain continued into the 20th century, with the new cultural movement and cultural revolution severely damaging Taoism. Many templates were destroyed and Taoist practices were banned. Despite this Despite all of this, Taoism survived in folk traditions and thrived outside on mainland China, especially in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia. I am so sorry. Since the late 1970s, Taoism has seen a revival in China. Since the late 1970s, Taoism has seen a revival in China with ceremonies being openly practiced again and new generations of priests being trained. Academic studies have been leading to a deeper understanding of Taoism, and the Chinese government established World Federation of Taoism in September of 2023 to apply Taoist teachings to global issues like politics, the environment, and healthcare. Now, Taoism hasn't only been confined only to the Chinese mainland. The foundational texts, Tao Te Ching and Zhaozing, have been spread beyond China to Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia. In Korea, Taoism, through shamanism and immortality practices, have become a key part of folk religion during the Goryeo and Joseon dynasties. In Japan, Taoist influence merged with Buddhism and Shinto, seen in practices like Shungendo and Omniyendo, which involved divination and spiritual control. Taoism also influenced movements in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia's Xian's Dao, Vietnam's Cao Dai, both promising salvation from a corrupt age. Now, Taoism as a way of life, they do have many practices. Taoist rituals, particularly in the Celestial Master sect, offer health, longevity, and collective salvation. Key practices include the Zai, which are fast, where those participating undergo penance, offer memorials, and pray for divine forgiveness and blessings. The fast of mud and soot involves public acts of penance, while the fast of yellow register honor deceased ancestors. The Geo is a communal offering ritual that seeks good fortune and protection for the community. It includes elaborate ceremonies that reenact cosmetic recreation, prayers, music, and feasts for both deities and wandering spirits. Now, during the Geo ceremony, community members' names are read aloud to ensure their support for the event and their share of the divine blessings. They also invite the top deities, like the three Pleiades and the Jade Emperor, to the ceremony. The chief priest pierces and burns talisman to appeal to the gods, and a collective pardon for all immoral acts is announced. To show gratitude to the community, they release captive animals and host a feast for ghosts in hell. The ceremony ends with farewells to deities, distributing food and entertainment for all of the people. Now, Taoism, unlike many other religions, has a non-sectarian approach that that often overlaps with other traditions, such as Confucianism and Buddhism. There are no formal initiation rites or membership in registries, making it difficult to make it accurate in order to measure the number of practicing Taoists. However, the interest in Taoism remains strong, both in intellectual tradition and in spiritual practices, continuing to spark interest in those seeing and those that are seeking for meaning and purpose. As mentioned earlier, Taoism views the human body as a piece of nature, meaning that both are interconnected along with the flow of qi, the energy matter that's in everything. Despite modern industrialization's environmental harm, there is a growing recognition in China of how Taoist principles can align with contemporary concerns that are affecting us now. Now, Taoism does have a positive view on the feminine compared to other religions. The Tao is often represented by the female in the Tao Te Ching, and the Taoist pantheon also includes many female deities. Taoist priestesses perform rituals alongside male priests, although they are fewer in number. In Taoism, gender is seen as a balance of the yin and the yang, with no gender being superior to another. The Tao embodied by the pantheon of deities. The Tao rewards just and punishes the wicked, and ensuring ultimate justice without worrying about gender or one's status. None of that matters to the Tao. He looks at us for who we are, what we do, and our actions, not for what we had or our bloodline, unlike how we had spoke about earlier with Tion. Now, Taoism has influenced many practices nowadays, like feng shui, Chinese herbal medicine, and martial arts. Feng shui involves aligning buildings and interiors to promote the flow of positive energy, qi, and it's also believed to enhance health and fortune. Taoist herbal medicine includes acupuncture and body massages, which has been gaining a lot of respect globally for its health benefits. Now, Chinese martial arts known as Tai Chi and Jiangong focus on harnessing qi to reduce stress, improve mental clarity, and protect health. The soft yielding principles of these arts reflect Taoist teachings of passivity, of being passive and non-assertiveness, popularized by figures like Bruce Lee through Tai Chi. Now, Taoism is not just about metaphysical discussions in the Tao Te Ching and Zhaozing, but instead they involve a belief of cosmological significance of the human body and the pursuit of physical well-being and perfection. It has evolved throughout Chinese history, influencing the community through rituals and ceremonies. Taoist values continue to shape contemporary Chinese views on health, medicine, cuisine, environment, and has gained global recognition. Taoism's focus on life generating and divine feminine, harmony with nature, bodily health, and communal rituals makes it really important in today's world. It does fit the definition of a religion within this discourse, practice, and community with instructional elements. Now, what is ultimate reality? For Taoists, the natural world is not a fallen state. There is no almighty creator, nor is there any demonic counterpart. There is no definite beginning to the world, and there is no predicted end. Instead, the world unfolds and operates like a pendulum, arc- arching between extremes and alternating between two polar but complementing opposites. Humans aren't being caught in a tug of war between good and evil, and the side they choose does not reflect in a permanent fate in paradise or hell. Emphasis is placed on balance, coexistence, and harmony. Now, how should we live in this world? In Taoism, the right way to live is by living a healthy life, remembering that the human body is a microorganism of the cosmos. While being ethical is important in Taoism, they stress the care of one's body through internal and external alchemy practices, which is seen in the way to align with Tao as the way of approaching the holy. Now, what is our ultimate purpose? Taoists view humans as a part of the Tao, whom is a spontaneous and perfect order. However, through ignorance, humans disrupt this harmony, depleting their energy, their chi, which causes disharmony, which leads nature into illness and death. To improve human condition, Taoists participate in practices to replenish the body and spirit by aiming to restore harmony and achieve with nature and achieve immortality. Taoists also see death not as an end, but as a transformation to a higher existence, a stage to true immortality. And now I do have some key terms here as we are approaching the end of the slideshow. Now, Tao speaks on Tian's way, which literally means way or path. Qi is our energy. The yin is often referenced with the female and the negative, the yang meaning positivity, and the shen is a benevolent power that protects and brings life to the living. Mm, Well, let me actually open up the correct slideshow. I apologize for that. Wow. I will have to pause this very quickly. No, I do have to apologize for that. I had the incorrect slideshow up. Now, to end it off here, one of the things that I found the most interesting regarding Taoism was the fact that there is no ultimate creator. I was raised Jehovah's Witness, so it's really hard to think of a world where there is no God or where there is no Jesus. I think that is really big for me. But it was interesting to learn about Taoism. It was a very different way of thinking. And I guess now it helps me understand, I think, a lot of the Chinese way of being and their politics and things like that. So it was really interesting, and I'm very happy I chose this religion. But that is the end of my presentation. I hope it didn't sound like I rambled. But thank you.